everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on June the 21st, 2016, and, you know, I will go off and say, maybe in-ring wise, I felt a few of the matches were a little bit sloppy this week, and that's just how they came off, at least in the terms of everything. But in the other sense of it, you can't really take away from the fact that they did a relatively good job of building story around some of those matches, and it actually made them come off a little bit better in the end. And I'll go ahead and get into everything here. They started off the show with Drew Galloway and EC3 cutting a promo on each other. You know, both of them getting at it about the week before, and it almost felt like they were going to lead into some kind of a one-on-one match to see who would be the number one contender was. But in the end, Bobby Lashley interrupts and says, you know, we talked, it's like, I talked it over with TNA management, and he set up this tag team match to where Drew Galloway and EC3 would work to be a team versus him, and then it turns out to be Eli Drake. Like, if Drew and EC3 win, they get title shots. If hit Eli Drake and Lashley win, Eli Drake gets the title shot. So, like, overall, that entire promo segment, I felt came off really, really well. Like, all these guys were doing really well on the microphone. They did a great job here. Like I said, the actual tag team match itself came off a little bit going all over the place and a little sloppy just at times. Not in the sense of being a bad match. Because it grasped the story of what they were going for in that sense. Because it was, you know, telling the stories like who's getting this world title shot. Are we going to have two guys getting a world title shot at some point? Or are we going to have just Eli Drake going up against Lashley at some point in time? It's, so it kind of made up for the fact that, like, at certain points they seem to be off cue in some way, shape, or form. So they turned it out to have it be EC3 and Drew Galloway winning the match itself. They even play off a little bit of dissension with EC3 and Drew Galloway because he gets Drew pushes EC3 out of the way and he gets speared in the process of doing everything. So you have that little bit of dissension still going on there to go along with it. And you also had a couple more promos, like three more short promos. One with Bobby Lashley with Drew and Bobby Lashley with EC3. Basically, you know, it's like both those guys basically saying, it's like Lashley was still saying he was in control. It's like, because I can give this guy this shot before I give it to you, and I can do this all the way down here. It's like he was still in control. And then he had one more promo with Dixie Carter's, like Dixie was basically saying, it's like, no, we're the ones in control, and we're going to tell you what it's going to be, and that it's going to be a triple threat match next week. And it's like, okay, we have the triple threat main event set up. So I ended up liking these backstage promos. They came off relatively well, and it sets up for the next week to go along with everything around that. So again, not too bad in that sense of everything. You had Decay. Basically, they cut a backstage promo saying, talking with Crazy, like Rosemary's talking to Crazy Steve and Abyss. It's like, we're gonna try to add another member to the team, to the crew, and everything in that sense. And they call out to the in-ring promo, and it's like, who are they gonna call out? They called out Bram, and it's interesting to go off here. Bram's always been considered like this semi out of control or psychotic at some points in time with how his style is, but he comes off as like you know, confused why Decay would even want him here, and it's definitely going into some kind of longer storyline here because Bram, you know, Rosemary tries to convince him, it's like, hey, Decay's the only answer for you in that sense of things, but Bram turns them down, so Decay actually attacks them. So it feels like you're going to get something a little bit more down the line here. We'll see what that actually is, whether he gets a tag team partner or just basically goes at it alone, because he does say in there, it's like he doesn't need anybody in any way, shape, or form. So we'll see where they go with everything in that one. Up next, you have Marty Bell and Jade, and you know, this one they played off the match. This one, another match that came off a little bit slow in the sense of everything. It did come off a little bit slower than what you probably would have wanted, but the story of the match again makes up for it. You got the aspect of them telling this story about two friends going at it, and the whole aspect of Marty Bell bringing the baton, the same thing that she used at the Slammiversary pay-per-view to take out Jade, and you even have it like a tease of Jade's going to use it, but then eventually Marty Bell does end up using it with the refs distracted, and Jade was about to dive out of the ring at her to end up picking up the win in the match. So obviously a feud that's going to continue on going, and again, a match that was a little bit slow, and I won't say sloppy by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't. It was just a little bit slower than what you would have probably expected, and it told a relatively good story to go along with it. And again, that's what you're looking for in most of these matches, is a relatively good story to go along with everything, and that's what they did here. So I ended up liking what they did with everything here. Up next was Maria and Michael Bennett. They were calling out Dixie Carter. So because of what happened from the week before with, Dixie slapping Maria, they threatened to sue and everything in that sense. So it comes down to everything like Maria wants Dixie to step down as president of the company, and everything in there is like, and of course, during this whole time, threatening lawsuits. You even had Michael Bennett saying, it's like, I have a dad who's a lawyer. I won't even have to pay lawyer fees or anything in there. So you had that little bit in there. So it comes up to Corgan, Billy Corgan, to tell Dixie, he's like, maybe you should take a leave of absence for a week. And then he starts talking with Maria and Michael Bennett. It's like, Corgan's almost coming off as like a person who's favors Maria and Michael Bennett in some way. Like, maybe he's going to be a heel authority figure or something like that down the line here. And he was like, it's like, what do you guys want, or something in that feeling and everything. Michael Bennett kind of demands some kind of title match, but he doesn't demand to be put in the world title match. He demands to be put into like an X Division title match with Eddie Edwards to try to play off of the Destination X with option C and everything like that. So, and he ends up making the match. So the match between Eddie Edwards and Michael Bennett, not a bad match. The only thing I really didn't like about the match was they didn't really need to play the comedy spot that they did with Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett, Michael Bennett, not the traditional X Division person, where, in all fairness, like, there is no traditional X Division person. Like, it's always supposed to be about no limits, not weight limits, it's about no limits, and so basically anybody can be in the division itself, but he plays off the aspect of like, people always do these springboards and dives and everything like that. So he does like a comedy spot in there where he tries to do a springboard off the top rope but misses and falls to the mat. I didn't really see it to be necessary in any way, and I'm not sure why they actually went for it to go along with it. But otherwise the match was good, and they're definitely starting off this storyline that maybe Michael Bennett's going to be in the world title match at the Destination X show whenever that ends out being. So so they have him holding the title. So they're going to probably play some kind of storyline to go along with that, to go along with everything. Up next, you also had Braxton Sutter. They're still building Braxton Sutter as much as possible at this point, and he was in there with, I believe the name was Ballum. To start out with. Like, it looked like you had this Max wrestler in the ring, his name was Ballum, and Rockstar Spud interferes and saying that he's like the big star and everything like that, everything like that, gets rid of Ballum, says, you're going to back, I'm taking this match, talks trash to Braxton Sutter, and then, of course, the match starts. And I'll go off and say, these two actually, they didn't put this over as like a squash match. Rockstar Spud got some offense in, it came off as a good match. It was a good, quick match to go along with everything. And then when you almost go for the respect spot at the end of the match, where Rockstar's supposed like you belong, shakes his hand and then low blows him. So you're going to continue on with this in some way, shape, or form. Or I mean, we'll see where they go with it. I'm a little iffy on Braxton Sutter at the moment, but again, he's still relatively new. He's only had a couple matches on the show, so we'll see how everything goes down the road here. You also had some backstage segments with Robbie E. Like going through Jesse Goddard's stuff and everything. It's like he gets the iPad that has like all the different like camera angles that they set up with the whole bromance thing. And he catches Jesse and Raquel talking about something. It's like, and they made it come off like that they were seeing each other or something like that, and that they were going to try to hide it from Robbie E or something in that sense. So Jesse walks, so they walk away, or they go their separate ways, and then of course like Robbie E gives like this dirty look to Jesse or something like that. We'll see where they go with it. It's gonna probably come off as like a little bit of a misunderstanding type thing to go along with everything with that. So we'll see where they go with it. It wasn't anything too crazily special, but it wasn't anything overly bad either to go along with it. You also had a relatively good promo from Sienna. Sienna was basically putting over who she is and everything like that, and basically saying why she was going to destroy Gail Kim next week, like out of the blue. It's like they have a match between Sienna and Gail Kim for the Knockouts title. So, I mean, obviously that could be a really good match, and we'll see how everything goes there. But it also kind of comes out of nowhere. But like I said, relatively good promo from the two of them to go along with it. And up next, after that, was the main event of the night, which was the Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, 6 Sides of Steel match. 6 Sides of Steel, the cage match. And, they did this one a little bit weirder than what you would normally see from the main events. Like, main events on Impact, we usually have some other kind of promo or something like that throughout the show. They had the thing at the beginning where, like, before they did everything, like, right before the intro of the show, but there was no promos throughout the entire rest of the night. So you have, like, Jeff out there, and he's, right before the match even starts, he's throwing tables, ladders, and chairs and everything into the ring to go along with everything. And you have Rebby come out and introduce Matt Hardy, and that was basically all they did there. Like, this match, I have to say it didn't feel like it needed to be there. It didn't. This feud should have ended with the Slammiversary show. It felt like they tacked this one on in there, and they were just going overboard with everything. Like, I found myself, even though they were doing some really good spots in there, like the ending spot felt very overly convoluted. Like, the ladder doesn't usually come into play. Like, the ladder itself doesn't really come into play until the end. And and the only way that it's used is that Jeff Hardy climbs up the ladder to get to the top of the cage. Which, couldn't he have just climbed to the top of the cage to get to that spot? So basically the final spot is Jeff Hardy, who dominates most of the match, to go along with it. I won't say it was a glorified squash match, but it was a very one-sided match at times to go along with it. And Jeff climbs up to the top of the cage after Matt had kicked out of a multiple twist of fates and a swanton. He stacks them on top of a table, puts a couple chairs on them, puts another table over top of them, and then climbs the cage using the ladder, and then splashes through the table, through Matt Hardy to end the match. The spot just was like, it seemed like it was very overly complicated than what it needed. Like, you could have not needed the ladder in there in any way. It felt like it was just there for the sake of being there. Like, there was no purpose to it in any sense there. Like, this was one of those few times that I'll say that a main event, there was no need for this. Like, this match, there was no need for it. They had that definitive ending at Slammiversary. Whether you would have had Matt or Jeff win it, you had that definitive ending to a feud. And they just tacked on one more match to go along with it. And honestly, it came off... like, that was just my feeling the entire time I was watching this match. It was like, this match doesn't need to happen in any way. Like, like your feud ender was at Slammiversary, and now you're doing one more match here, and this is supposed to end the feud. It was like, okay, whatever in that sense of everything. But overall, like I said, a few matches came off maybe a little bit wonky or something in that sense, but I felt like for the most part of the show, the storylines were being told rather well. I thought some of these storylines were rather well. It'll be interesting to see where they go with this whole Bram and Decay thing, along with everything. And you'll have more with this whole Maria, Michael Bennett, Dixie Carter thing down the road here as well. I liked where that story was going. What else here? I liked how they built up this whole aspect of Drew Galloway and EC3 having some kind of tension, but now they both have title shots. And you had the triple threat set up for the next week, and we'll see where they go along with everything. Like, even the Marty Bell and Jade storyline, I felt came off rather well this week. So, like I said, we'll see where they go with everything. Most of the storylines I felt came off rather well, and you know, you got to give at least ups to Impact on that one. They had a rather well done storyline based show this week for Impact, and we'll see where they go with everything for the next couple of weeks. And that is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.